picture is worth 1,000 words, but in this case, a picture can be easily worth $1,000. An increasing number of young adults are suffering from bill shock as global data roaming charges strike. ACCAN says that for every one picture upload to Facebook, it will cost you $40. As Australia has one of the highest global roaming charges in the world, changes have been implemented to reduce bill shock.
Australians do pay a huge amount for global roaming. Our global roaming rates are some of the highest in the world. Having said that, there's some pretty clear evidence around that providers are charging a huge markup on what they're being charged from overseas networks. Now there's pretty clear evidence that Telstra, regardless of what they're getting charged from their customer, they're putting a really big price hike on that by the time it ends up to you. So we've seen bills that are, the highest one I've ever personally seen is $100,000, but we had a student last year that came to us and she had a $9,000 bill for a 2-week holiday in New York. You can get a smartphone and you know, it's what one of my colleagues refers to as a loaded gun of credit, because there's absolutely no limit to how much of a bill or credit you can run up.
Carla Montfort's gap year turned out to be a disaster due to global roaming charges. Carla and her mother say they were unaware of the extremely high bill and their carrier should have notified them before letting it get to such a cost.
So I finished school in 2011. I saved up enough money to take myself on an overseas trip as a gap year. I intended originally to stay for about 12 months. However, after maybe 5 or 6 months, I was in a lot of debt, and financially I couldn't support myself overseas anymore. Basically this was due to my phone, and I racked up a really huge phone bill overseas. And it wasn't until, 5 months into my trip where I had no more money to continue to travel. I had to call my mum to bail me out, and originally I came home earlier than intended. My carrier at the time should have let me know or just notified me along the way that I exceeded my bill, and it was just out of this world to be spending that much money in so little time. And as a student I had no idea, and it's something they should have told me before I went away or even during my trip, just to let me know how I was going or just to make sure that everything was okay. But I didn't receive a call, an SMS or an email at all, which is actually quite scary.
I was very supportive of Carla taking a gap year and going overseas. I think it's very exciting and every child should have that opportunity to do so. What disappointed me, and I was very dismayed, was with the phone carrier who we had been loyal customers with for years. Didn't have the decency or the courtesy to let us know when the phone bill was getting excessively high. Yet if we don't pay in time, they're on the phone asking where the money is. But when a phone bill gets to those sort of amounts, I think they have a duty of care and responsibility to let their customers know what's going on.
Telstra is making efforts to make consumers more aware of global data charges in order to avoid bill shock.
As a store, we're not allowed to actually put international roaming onto a customer's account. There is a specific department within Telstra that does that, so there's one direct number, just to speak to someone in regards to international roaming.
Well, the good news for people that travel overseas regularly is that the Minister, Senator Conroy, has ordered the regulator, which is the Australian Communications and Media Authority, to put in place what's known as a standard, so that when customers are travelling overseas, especially young people who are in their gap year, as soon as they land in a new country and switch on their smartphone, they get a text message or two telling them exactly what the call rates are, exactly how much it costs to use data in the country that they've arrived in, and links back to websites or extra information if people want to check and make sure they don't get a high global roaming bill. Don't use global roaming at all. Use your smartphone if you have to, but only for texts. Make sure you've got data switched off, and the reason for that is it's still a real luxury to use data when you're overseas. You simply can't use it like you do when you're at home to check Facebook or check your emails, because it just costs so much money. For example, upload a photo on Facebook will cost you about $40. Data is just still incredibly expensive overseas. So if you're going to be travelling on your gap year for say 6 months or something, our best advice is to actually buy a local SIM card in the country where you arrive. The TIO receives about 200,000 complaints a year from unhappy telecommunications customers. You're well within your rights to complain if something goes wrong and your provider can't fix it for you. So please, my message to young people is know your rights and make a complaint and go to the TIO if your provider can't help you.
You're watching UTS News. I'm Laura Morelli.